April 30th, 1945. A single gunshot cracks through the stale air of a concrete bunker beneath Berlin. Above ground, the world is burning. 50 million human lives have been extinguished. Entire cultures have been reduced to ash. The industrial machinery of genocide finally grinds to a screaming halt. But to understand the true mechanism of this catastrophe, we must not look at the end. We must rewind the tape. We must erase the swastikas. We must silence the Nuremberg rallies. We must peel away the mustache, the uniform, and the hatred. We must travel back 56 years to a quiet, dimly lit room in a small border town. It is Saturday, the 20th of April, 1889. The time is 6:30 in the evening. The air smells of river water, Easter dampness, and coal dust. A baby cries. It is a sound that every parent loves, a sign of life. But if the world knew what this specific cry would eventually cost, if we could see the future etched into this infant's skin, who among us would not tremble? This is not a story about a mythical monster. Monsters are easy to dismiss. This is a story about a human boy, and that reality is infinitely more terrifying. Welcome to the Genesis. Braunau am Inn is not merely a town, it is a geographic, psychological condition. It sits heavily on the map, a gray stone settlement pressed against the banks of the River Inn. In 1889, this river is more than water. It is a scar separating two massive political entities. On one bank lies the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a decaying multi-ethnic tapestry ruled by the aging Habsburgs. On the other bank, just a stone's throw away, lies the German Empire, young, muscular, and rising in power. The boy is born precisely on this fault line. The location itself is the first character in his tragedy. The atmosphere here is thick with bureaucratic dust and provincial silence. The streets are lined with houses painted in pastel yellows and sober grays, structures that seem to frown down upon the cobblestones. It is a place of transit, not a destination. Customs officials patrol the bridges, checking papers with the rigid self-importance that defines the era. The weather on this Easter weekend is volatile, shifting between spring sunshine and biting cold rain. This instability mirrors the region's identity. The people of Braunau speak a German dialect, they look German, they dream German dreams, yet their passports are stamped Austrian. This dissonance creates a deep, subconscious vibration in the local psyche, a longing for belonging, a desire to erase the river that divides us from them. Inside the building at Salzburger Vorstadt number 15, the mood is tense. The architecture is humble, a former inn, a guest house for travelers passing through the border. It is fitting that the man who will one day obsess over blood and soil is born in a rented room, in a building meant for transients. There are no roots here, only a temporary pause. The psychological weight of this environment cannot be overstated. From his very first breath, the infant inhales the air of the borderland. He is a creature of the margin. He is born between empires, between centuries, and between the fading old world order and the violent modernity that is about to explode. This is the gray frontier. It is a place where identity is not a given fact, but something that must be fought for, argued, and eventually violently seized. The river flows relentlessly outside the window, whispering the dangerous idea that borders are artificial and that they can be crossed or erased entirely. If the geography provides the stage, the father provides the suffocating script. Standing over the crib is Adolf Hitler. He is 51 years old. He is not a young father, he is a man already hardened by half a century of bitter striving. To understand the son, one must dissect the father, for Alois is the primary architect of the psychological architecture that will one day imprison Europe. Alois is a man of the uniform. He is a customs official, a servant of the Habsburg state. In his mind, the uniform is not just clothing, it is a second skin that hides a deep, shameful wound. For the first 39 years of his life, he did not bear the name Hitler. He was Alois Schicklgruber, an illegitimate child, a bastard, in the cruel lexicon of the 19th century. He carried the stigma of having no father, a source of burning humiliation in a society obsessed with lineage. It was only 13 years ago, in 1876, that he legitimized himself, changing his name to Hitler. This transition is critical. It reveals a man obsessed with status, with erasing the past, and with projecting an image of absolute, unquestionable respectability. He looks down at the newborn with eyes that are cold and appraising. There is little warmth in Alois. He is a man of violent temper, known to lash out when his authority is challenged. He demands silence. He demands order. He manages his family exactly as he manages the border crossing, with rigid rules, unexpected inspections, and severe penalties for non-compliance. He is the archetype of the authoritarian personality, a psychological model defined by submissiveness to those above and tyranny to those below. The age gap in the room is palpable. Alois is 23 years older than his wife, Clara. He is more of a grandfather figure than a husband. He breathes the air of the mid-19th century, carrying values of strict obedience and physical discipline. He does not see an infant, he sees a future civil servant. He sees a vessel that must be broken and reshaped into a productive cog of the Austrian state. This dynamic creates a terrifying binary in the infant's developing mind. The father represents the world of danger, judgment, and pain. He is the god of wrath. The boy will grow up watching this man, fearing him, and secretly despising him. Yet, psychology teaches us a dark truth. We often emulate what we fear. The son will eventually absorb Alois's obsession with legitimacy. He will inherit the temper. He will inherit the worship of uniforms and the disdain for weakness. But where Alois used this power to control a household, the son will use it to control a continent. The shadow of Alois falls across the crib, eclipsing the light, planting the first seeds of a worldview where power is the only currency that matters. If the father is the hammer, the mother is the cushion that suffocates. Clara Hitler, née Pilsel, stands on the other side of the room. She is 28 years old, 23 years younger than her husband. Her eyes are large, pale, and filled with a terror that only a grieving mother can understand. To comprehend the psychology of the son, we must acknowledge the ghosts that crowd this room. He is not born into a nursery. He is born into a graveyard. Before this day, Clara had given birth to 3 other children, Gustav, Ida, and Otto. In a cruel span of just a few weeks during the winter of 1887, diphtheria swept through the house. It took them all, one by one. The cradle was filled, then emptied, filled, then emptied. For 2 years, Clara has lived in a silent house, mourning a tomb of angels. Her identity as a mother was shattered. Now she holds the 4th child, Adolf, the survivor. But this survival comes with a heavy psychological price tag. Clara does not just love this boy, she worships him with a desperate, anxious intensity. She looks at him and sees a fragile creature that could be snatched away by death at any second. Her love is not a warm embrace, it is a fortress. She resolves, in this very moment, that nothing will ever touch him. No cold draft, no germ, no harsh word. This creates a dangerous mechanism in the infant's developing brain. While the father represents a world of harsh judgment, the mother represents a world of unconditional, excessive adoration. She unconsciously projects her own anxiety onto the child. He learns that the outside world is deadly and that he is the most precious object in the universe. He is the center of her solar system. Psychologists call this the narcissistic wound. The child becomes an extension of the mother's ego. Because she lost the others, this one must be perfect. He must be protected. He must be special. This intense overmothering compensates for the father's coldness, but it also warps reality. It teaches the boy that he is entitled to absolute devotion. It teaches him that he is unique, chosen to survive where others perished. Clara's tragedy is that her love, born of pure grief, becomes the fuel for his future delusion. She will shield him from reality for the rest of her life. She will enable his laziness, excuse his failures, and feed the belief that he is destined for greatness simply because he breathes. In this dim room in Braunau, the mother goddess figure is established, a source of comfort that the boy will chase forever and eventually project onto the nation of Germany itself. He will want a country that loves him as blindly and fiercely as the woman holding him now. The stage for this event is not a hospital, it is a guest house. The building known as the Gasthof zum Palmer stands solid and unpretentious. It is a place of public gathering, smelling of stale beer, pipe tobacco, and damp wool. The irony is sharp and bitter. The man who will later preach extreme purity, who will abstain from alcohol and meat, who will demand a sterile and orderly society, enters the world in the chaotic, alcoholic atmosphere of a provincial inn. We must zoom in on the physical reality of room number 3 on the first floor. It is 6:30 in the evening. Outside, the church bells of Braunau are likely ringing for the Easter Vigil, marking the resurrection of Christ. Inside, a very different arrival is taking place. The room is small, the wallpaper is heavy, patterned in the dark floral styles of the era. The lighting comes from kerosene lamps, casting long, flickering shadows against the walls. The air is close and overheated, as was the custom to protect the newborn from drafts. Medical science in 1889 is a brutal affair. There are no antiseptics in the modern sense, no electronic monitors, no pain relief. The birth is a raw biological struggle. A local midwife attends to Clara, her hands stained with the fluids of life. Dr. Eduard Bloch, the family physician who will later play a significant role in Hitler's life, is the type of Jewish doctor who serves the poor and the middle class with equal dedication. His presence here is another layer of historical tragedy. The very class of people this infant will grow up to exterminate are the ones currently ensuring his safe arrival into the world. The sounds of the inn drift up from the floorboards below, the clinking of glass steins, the murmur of Austrian-German dialects, the heavy footsteps of travelers. Above this mundane soundtrack of village life, the infant takes his first breath. His lungs expand with the dusty air of the room. The umbilical cord is cut. The separation is complete. He is no longer part of Clara. He is an independent biological entity. This specific room, room 3, will eventually become a shrine. During the Third Reich, the Nazi Party will purchase this building. They will turn it into a cultural center. They will hang wreaths and swastikas here. They will treat these floorboards as holy ground. But tonight it is just a rented room. It smells of iodine and sweat. There is no halo. There is only a crying baby, a blood-soaked sheet, and the ticking of a clock on the mantelpiece, counting down the seconds of a century that has just been condemned. The crying stops. The infant sleeps. In the silence of the early morning, a profound psychological transaction takes place. Adolf has done what Gustav, Ida, and Otto could not. He has survived. He has drawn breath and kept it. This biological fact, a mere roll of the genetic dice, will not be interpreted by the future dictator as luck. It will be interpreted as destiny. This is the seed of Vorsehung, providence. It is the core delusion that will shield him from bullets in the First World War and assassination attempts in the Wolf's Lair. The belief that he is chosen. The belief that the universe itself bends to keep him alive because he has a mission. But tonight, that mission is simply to exist between the crushing expectations of a brutal father and the suffocating anxiety of a grieving mother. He is the golden child rising from the ashes of his siblings. This position is perilous. Psychologically, he is trapped in a high-pressure chamber. On one side, he faces Alois, the wall of authority, the demand for submission, the threat of violence. On the other side, he faces Clara, the ocean of emotion, the indulgence, the whisper that he is special, that he is the center of the world. This duality creates a volatile chemical mixture in the boy's soul. From his father, he learns that power is the only language the world speaks. From his mother, he learns that he is infallible. He absorbs the resentment of the border town, the shame of his father's illegitimacy, and the fear of his mother's loss. He is a vessel filling up with the toxic runoff of the 19th century. He is not born evil. He is born a blank slate, but the hands that hold the chalk are trembling with trauma and rage. As he sleeps in the crib, the world outside continues to turn. The Austrian Empire continues to rot. The anti-Semitic pamphlets circulate in the coffeehouses of Vienna. The industrial machines grind on. The infant knows nothing of this yet. He simply breathes. But in his survival, the tragedy is locked in. The survivor has arrived, and because he lives, millions of others will eventually have to die. The sun rises on April 21st, 1889. The town of Braunau am Inn wakes up. The mist clears off the river. Merchants open their shutters. The customs officials change shifts at the bridge. Nobody looks at the window of the Gasthof zum Pommer. Nobody knows what has happened. History is silent. We look back at this moment and we want to see a sign. We want to see thunder, or a darkened sky, or a mark on the child's forehead. But there is nothing. There is only a banal, ordinary morning, and that is the final horror. Evil does not arrive with a fanfare. It arrives in diaper cloths. It arrives in the quiet accumulation of resentment, in the breaking of a child's spirit, in the silence of good people. The monster is gone now. He died in that bunker in 1945. But the mechanism that created him? That remains. The mechanism is built of humiliated fathers, anxious mothers, societies that fear the other, and nations that crave a savior. The chemistry set that produced Adolf Hitler is still available. It sits on the shelves of history, waiting for the next hand to mix the ingredients. Do not look away. Do not think this is just a history lesson. It is a mirror. The infant in the crib is potential energy. It is up to us, the collective humanity, to ensure that we never again build the environment that allows such potential to turn into kinetic destruction. We must study the darkness to protect the light. The story of the 20th of April is over. The story of the warning has just begun.